Hurry, you don't want to miss it. It's coming up quickly. Very soon, in fact. Power Talk, hosted by our very own Jean Adrienne. Power Talk is brought to you every week by New Earth International and New Earth Broadcasting. And here she is now, Jean Adrienne. And we're live with Power Talk with your host, Jean Adrienne.
Good morning and welcome to Power Talk. So you're catching us on a Tuesday instead of a Monday, but that's okay. There really is no such thing as time. And time's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got an amazing guest for you. His name is Chad Cooper, and he is a former executive with Microsoft. He's retired at a very young age, so he's the perfect person to be able to share with us strategies to help each of us get to a legendary lifestyle. He's a coach. He's been an advisor to Fortune 500 executives all over the U.S., teaching them on how to position and define their services as strategic assets. And he's also coached a ton of people as professional athletes, he himself being an Ironman competitor. So he's now got a brand new book, and his new book is called Time Isn't the Problem, You Are. 4 strategies to transform stress into success. So welcome, Chad.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on and happy to be able to share my message with the audience today.
Well, that's what it's really all about, isn't it? We shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel, should we?
I absolutely agree. It's exhausting. You might as well learn from others and pick up on the efficiencies.
Exactly. I think I figured that out a long time ago. It's like, it's better to let somebody who's really got it mirror that success strategy to me so that I don't have to go through the bumps and bruises. And I really appreciate you writing this book and coming on and sharing with us today, some strategies that the listeners and the viewers can use. Because so many of us, we've been doing the same old now for a good number of years. We're moving into a brand new year. It's a 1 year. It's a new cycle. We're completing everything in 2016. Thank goodness. So ready for that door to shut. And a lot of the old ways just don't work anymore, do they?
Well, you make a very solid point. And the book is really kind of a culmination of my experience over the last 25 years, learning from the masters that I've had the opportunity to stand on their shoulders. I've had the privilege to work with the #1 coaching organization in the world, a very tall gentleman that many people probably would know with a big giant smile. And it was an extraordinary opportunity. I've had the privilege of working with some of the best, whether that's relationship coaching, whether that is working in the entrepreneurial or financial space. I've had the privilege of working with billionaires, multimillionaires, professional athletes, and the book took a look at my ability and what I created, because the reality was when I hit 40, Gene, I went, awesome, I've done everything that I've wanted to do. I had this bucket list, and I applied for a Guinness World Record of the most completed popular bucket list items, and I went, this is awesome, and at the same time I went, oh crap, have I peaked? And so it's this very similar scenario to the billionaires, to the celebrities that are out there. And I've had the privilege to work with them directly, so I know that there's evidence and there's truth in that statement. And so what I learned from them is, what are the tricks that they have picked up to be effective in their time management skills? Because we get 168 hours a week. I call it the rule of 168. And you can look at a Bill Gates, or Winfrey, Sir Richard Branson, and it doesn't matter about how much money they have, doesn't matter about what your economic means are, where you're born, your gender or ethnicity, any of it. We get 168 hours, and that's the great equalizer. What we do with it is what separates the boys from the men and the girls from the women. And so I've learned to take their tricks and learn to stack on top of that to create what I call a legendary lifestyle.
So can anybody do that? Can I have a legendary lifestyle?
Well, shoot, Gene, if I can do it, then anybody can do it, is what I would say. I wasn't born into privilege, and I've had my share of tragedies and difficulties. My life was on the road to prosperity of doing all the right things, having the right job, driving the right car, living in the right neighborhood, all of those things that you're supposed to do. And sadly, like many, Robin Williams or Philip Seymour Hoffman had celebrity, had fame, had the money, and yet they weren't happy. And I found myself in that same scenario. And I looked at it and said, this isn't working. All these things that we're told we're supposed to do isn't working. And what I found that I can't replace is how much time I got. And so I scrapped it. I walked away. Financially, I was able to walk away during the, just before the Great Recession. And I walked in and said, I've got nothing. Help me build something. And so working with some of the best in the world have been able to go from ordinary into extraordinary. And I captured that because so many people asked me, how did you do it? And of course, at first, it was very collegiate, very eloquent response, somewhere along the lines of, I don't know. But I was able to capture that, and I was able to put that into the book so that I can send that message out and show just about anybody in the world how they can rise above their standards, their circumstances, and create an extraordinary life. And I'm really proud of the work.
So is there really a trick to success?
Well, it starts with your language. And if there's anything that I've learned, one of the four legs in creating a legendary lifestyle is first understanding that time isn't the problem. We all get the same amount of time. So that leaves one thing left, and that's us. So if we are the problem, we have to admit that we're part of the problem, but it also means that we're part of the solution. And so when we understand that, then we can get into the repair work, the building work, and build a strong foundation. So if we're in survival, we don't want to jump to success. We have to go to a place of stability. And that stability starts with our words. There's somewhere like 45,000 words in the English dictionary. And out of those, about 1,200 are words that relate to emotion and feeling. The average person uses 12 emotions on a regular basis, out of 1,200. And so we are happy, we're sad, we're pissed. And that's about the extent of it. That was my life as a former United States Marine. And I graduated, I left in the Marines, and I learned from one of my brothers, I have a huge family, that emotions are like a color palette. They're shades of blue. It's not just blue. We have periwinkle, we have baby blue, we have navy blue, we have royal blue, etc. And our emotions are very similar to that. And so we need to look at our calendar and ask ourselves, do we have emotion showing up in our calendar? Is there intensity and passion in our purpose? Or are we filling it just with limp and neutral language?
And, this is a perfect time to be doing this because personally, I'm right now beginning to build my strategies and tactics for 2017 of the things that I really want to do. And I don't want to do it unless it's feeding me emotionally, unless it's filling me with joy. I don't have time for it. But so often we get, I think, sidetracked by distractions, don't we?
Well, you make a great point about the holidays are upon us. And what stresses us out is we're being told, be happy, be smiling, as somebody's cutting you off and the weather is bad that day. And we don't feel like we have enough time to get it all done. That's a normal week, a normal day. Now stack on top of it the holidays. We've got to go see, that relative that maybe pushes our buttons. Or maybe we've put on a little bit of weight and we don't want to be judged by those that are just supposed to love us. But what we have found is when that New Year's resolution comes around the corner, we set our resolutions. We get this, I'm really going to make 2017 count. But we found that statistically within 5 to 6 weeks, that list ends up in a drawer, ends up under a stack of books or papers, and we give up. Now, if you're in a gym membership and you are the gym owner, it's a great business to be in right now because they're going to show up for 6 weeks and then you've got the rest of the year to just have them continue that contract and payment. So what we can do with our language is this. Okay, so for the audience to be able to change their trajectory, to get to an extraordinary life in 2017, is instead of going into it with that list, create that dream, that bucket list. But then instead of putting it away, which you didn't intend to do, instead what I would say is write down this phrase. It's not your strength that holds you to your purpose. It's the strength of the purpose itself. So for each item that you put down, don't rely on discipline or self-control to get you across the finish line, because temptation is going to give in. I mean, we've got how many holidays around the corner here for food temptation. Then we've got all the other temptations that hit us in life. Of course, we've got, birthdays and anniversaries and other holidays, etc. So our diet alone is setting us up in a society to fail. But if we know our purpose, we know our why, that's really the second leg to being able to create a legendary lifestyle. So the first is the language that matters. The second is know your why. Why are you going into the next year with a specific goal? What is that objective? What is it that you really want to experience? Now, if I can, let me talk a little bit about purpose. Would that help?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So the holidays are on us. What is it that you really want to feel? So many of us are, I got to go get that gift for Jean. I've got, Robert, and all these things that we have to do. And we fill our calendar with to-dos. And it's one of the reasons why Steve Jobs was adamant about not allowing a to-do list into his software, because he knew to-do lists are self-sabotage. They're never ending. They're always getting longer, and you never feel a sense of accomplishment. And so instead of a to-do list, take a look at your week, because your week is your to-do list. And so if you have two of those, in reality, you're trying to fit more than 168 hours in, maybe like 220 hours into 168 hours, and you feel like you're failing. So instead, what you're going to do is take a look at your calendar and the things that you have on there, ask yourself, what's the purpose? And when we're asking about purpose, people think purpose is, an achievement. It's a job title. It's a destination to be, to achieve or cross. And the reality is that the little secret that people have been looking for, and it's a holiday gift today, is your purpose is a feeling. How do you want to feel on a consistent basis? When you go to that family gathering, how do you want to feel? And to help us, many of us have been trained not to feel, right? Just do. So take two of the happiest memories that you can think of in your lifetime. And just think for a second, what are some two happiest memories that I've had? And write down all the experiences, all the memories that you can about that. And once you have that down, and you can do 4, you can do 8, as many experiences as you want. But what you're looking for is circle the feelings, the emotions that you had during those memories. Because that's your purpose. That's what you want to replicate. You want to replicate those feelings, those emotions. And instead of going after things, the material, and I have nothing against the material, I like nice things. We're spiritual beings living in a 3D world. But instead, look at what is your purpose and put your emotions and the feelings that you want to experience in the subject line to your calendar. And you will watch your week transform in front of your eyes.
And I would also suggest something back from one of the first things that you said was that it's not black or white, but there are millions of shades of gray in between those two. So get the dictionary out and expand your vocabulary on what you want those emotions to be. Not just, I don't want to be happy, I want to be safe, I want to be, but really get juicy with that and find some good words to put in there about how you want to feel every day.
And get vulnerable. Be willing to get, out of your comfort zone, because in all the speaking that I do, the coaching that I do, and in the events that I go to, when I ask people to write down feelings, they usually max out at about 4 before they're 3 or 4, and they're like, I'm searching and I can't think of other feelings. And that tells you that that's not just them. That's a societal situation that we've created. And so I love the invitation to pull out a dictionary. I use Kindle all the time. and Audible. And what I'll do is if there's a big collegiate word, or, it could probably be a simple word in my world, but if there's a word that I don't get, last night I was reading a book and 3 times within probably 20 minutes, there was this word that popped up. And I love that I can just click on it and hold it and it pops up and says, here's what that means. Take a minute to stop and understand, what are these words that you don't understand? And your experience, the meaning you give to your day, to your week, to your month, to your 2017 will change the emotions that you experience.
And I'm going to throw one out there for people. So this morning I was listening to Good Morning America, and they were talking about Merriam-Webster said the top word for the year 2016 was the word surreal. That word was Googled more times than any other word, that people looked it up in the Merriam-Webster site. So I would offer to you that maybe you might want to include surreal in your 2017 list of emotions that you want to feel. Man, I want this experience to make me feel surreal.
So you write down that word and then close your eyes and ask yourself, how would you put your arms around that? What would surreal feel like for you this week? What would it sound like?
I think it opens the door to miracles.
Yeah.
So that's what it feels like to me.
When we come up with the words, we want to take our your VAK, your visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and describe that experience. And then look for in the repeated words as you keep doing that through different events. And what you'll find is you start actually living your purpose rather than trying to chase after it. And what you'll find is instead of accepting what you get, you start getting what you accept. You start living in cause rather than living in the effect of other people's decisions and actions. And
it seems to me that so often when people begin to try to make a plan, that before long, they end up turning that plan, which started off very adventurous and fun and all that kind of stuff, but it becomes a stressor. So how can people take that stress that they might have created in the past and turn it into success in this legendary lifestyle that you're talking about?
Well, that's where I talk about the rule of 168. And again, that's 1 week of time. And so I just came back not too long ago from a surreal vacation, an extraordinary vacation in Australia with my family. And I was there for 3 weeks. Most people wish that they could take a 2-week vacation, maybe just at home. And we've of our society said that we've accepted staycations as something that is to be admired. And often it's because when we want to do something extraordinary, we look at it and go, man, that's a huge boulder. That is so much to do. I don't even want to get started because it's just stressing me out. And so instead, what I suggest that you do is look 12 weeks out at a time. So right now is a perfect time for New Year's resolutions. From those resolutions that you create, instead of considering 52 weeks, because the mind says, oh, Jean, I have plenty of time. I don't need to get started now. I'm going to have, maybe that extra beverage or that extra slice of dessert or whatever. I'll get to it later. And then months later, like November, you go, where's that list? Oh my gosh, I'm late. And then we're stressed out because we've forgotten about it. So instead, what I would say is take that resolution and ask yourself, what do you want to accomplish in the next 12 weeks? Just 12 weeks. And plan it from there backwards. So if you want to do some exotic vacation, block the time out on your calendar. See, to talk about it is exciting. But if you actually schedule it, then what you're doing is actually holding yourself accountable. It's taking ownership of what really matters to you. And I tell people, don't tell me what your dreams are. Show me your calendar and I'll tell you what really matters to you. And so if you say, hey, I really want to spend more time with my kids this year, or I really want to advance my career, or I really want to improve our customer service levels, show me on your calendar where you're actually blocking the time to actually dig into that. Then within it, what is the language that is actually bringing you back to your purpose? So for each subject line you have, the subject line needs to include your purpose in juicy and delicious language. And you can work backwards. So you say, hey, I want to go to, I don't know, where's a dream place you want to go to?
Well, I'm going to France in May, but I haven't put that on my calendar.
Pardon?
I haven't put it on my calendar yet.
So the first is people go, yeah, I want to get to that in 2017. So what I tell people is give me the date, not the month, not the first quarter, second quarter. Is what's the date that you want to claim victory to that adventure? Then you can work 12 weeks back, or, you know, depending on where it's at, block out some time. How much time do you need to research airfare? How much time do you need to block out to look at destinations? Do you want to go to Paris? Do you want to go to Normandy? Do you want to go to the Bordeaux region? Do you want to go to Cannes? Where do you want to go? And continue to block that time and schedule that out, including airfare, including hotels, including, you know, the adventures, all of those little things. And that is how the ordinary becomes extraordinary. And that includes, by the way, the fiscal responsibility. Do you need to carve some time and say, how much do I project this is going to cost? And what am I going to do to start setting that money aside so that you can actually make it reality? But in each of those items, it needs to include your purpose, right? So maybe the airfare is booking the safest or booking comfort in the transport of my adventure. I'm thinking off the top of my head. Yeah. But you want that to include, you know, do you want to just be crammed in some budget?
No, legroom. That's important. I'm almost 6 feet tall. Got to have legroom.
There you go. So that literally, that appointment should say ensuring legroom, airfare, right? Because what happens if you try to book and get that seat a day before the flight? You're getting the middle seat, sweetheart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where we go is make sure that we tie that to the experience that you want to have. And the reality is we look at our calendars multiple times a day. And so when we actually create that rather than other people filling it for us, that really transports the life that we start receiving.
You know, one of the things that I've started doing that keeps me from taking that and letting it just kind of collapse and get stuck in a drawer is I get a really big calendar with really big squares on it so that I have room to write all that juicy stuff in there. And then I can't shove it in a drawer because it won't fit in any drawer in my little log cabin. So that's not going to happen.
Yes. So you had mentioned earlier about, you know, modern systems today. And really the program that I offer in the book is really about being able to handle 21st century technology in our world today. Let's face it, you know, if you're a business owner or an employee, it doesn't matter. We're in a global society. The day of 9 to 5 was never a reality. All 9 to 5 was a standard for the unions to be able to determine when overtime got kicked in, okay? But
in my career, I never got away with just a 9 to 5 job, or a 40-hour work week for that matter, you know?
Exactly. So in many ways, we've always worked more than 40 hours. But in today's world, we have email that is always knocking on our door. And so we never get that break. Second is we have the internet. And so what we do today, that old adage, you do something wrong, they're going to tell 10 people. You do something right, they might tell 1 or 2. Well, in today's world, you screw up customer service, it's going to reach millions of people because we are a global connected society. So we need 21st century tools to be able to embrace our world today. And that means being able to have a calendar or a system that replicates automatically in all of our little devices, whether that's a tablet or our smartphone or our desktop computer. And so I found the tools that work very well for me. And I encourage you, find the tool that works for you, but it's one system. It's not sticky notes and your online calendar. It's not a big offline calendar and then a calendar on your computer, unless you're transferring that across. But you want
I have never gotten to that place of being able to put my calendar on my computer. I still use a paper calendar, and people laugh at me and they go, Jean, how can you do that? But, it's the old dog and the new tricks, I guess, even though I worked in the high-tech world for 30 years until I retired, I still have to have that paper calendar.
But see, you figured out what works for you.
Yeah.
And so it's not about saying, hey, I have to adopt Chad's standards.
Right.
A legendary lifestyle is a lifestyle according to your own standards. Stop listening to society because it lives by a very low bar.
And I drive Time Trade crazy because my clients go on Time Trade to book their sessions with me, and it keeps saying, but I don't have a calendar to sync up to, and I have to manually go into Time Trade and block off the times I don't want to work, and it's a manual thing, but it's working for Jean. And, Time Trade's going to have to learn to live with it.
So for me, what I found is I actually have 3 screens on one computer. One of those screens is quite large, and that screen is for my calendar. And that allows me, what I like about the online calendars is I too have clients that schedule through an online system. It reads my calendar and simply says, here's when you're available, here's when you're not. So it makes it very effective for my clients and for me. It also says, here's my, when it's outside my work hours, so people aren't consuming or breaking my balance of work life. Right. But what it also allows me to do is color code. And for many people who use online, they have this thing called the subject line, and that's all they use. But there's an entire section called the body. And that's what I'm hearing that you're using with your big calendar, is that you make the most and maximize that calendar by putting in additional details that allow you to fill up. And so that's really what I offer to my clients is use the body. And maybe that's a little asterisk in the subject line that is a reminder, hey, take a look in the details. And that'll allow you to be successful. Now, whether you're paper or online, color code those so that when you have your personal time, maybe that's green. When you have your clients, maybe that's orange, or phone calls are yellow, but use language that helps you identify what is the identity that I'm going into this next appointment. So when I'm spending time with family, that's lavender. Notice I didn't say purple because I'm involved.
Right. That's my favorite color. So, there you go.
So family is lavender for me. And that role with my son is super dad. It's not parent, it's not father, because that word has some positive and negative connotations depending on the individual. But super dad is an identity that I don't see sitting on the couch, drinking a beer and watching football. Maybe that's my personal time, which I call abundance. But super dad is engaged. Super dad is active. And so when you're putting things on your calendar, don't be afraid to use color coding. All modern calendars today do that. If you have an offline or a paper, they make colored pens and pencils. And use those so that visually, when you look at it, you're like, oh, I know which role I'm stepping into. And you bring that character to the stage and you perform it as an Oscar performance.
I love it. You've actually inspired me. I think that one of those New Year's resolutions for Jean for the next 2 weeks is going to be to move all of the stuff from that big paper calendar into iCal and then let that sync with Time Trade and actually make my life easier, take some of that stress out so I don't have to go in and block out manually the time. So thank you for that. And thank you for your time today, because this has been extremely informative. I know that the visitors and the listeners and the viewers are just going to love what you've had to say. And I know they're going to love your new book. So folks, get his new book. His new book is called Time Isn't the Problem, You Are. 4 strategies to transform stress into success. And listeners and viewers, this is going to be our last show for 2016 because we're taking Christmas Monday off and New Year's Monday off. I'll join you again on the 9th of January when my guest is going to be Valerie Green. And we're going to be talking about relationships and finding the pitfalls that we have experienced in the past so we don't make those same mistakes in 2017. So Chad, thank you so much. And
Pleasure.
Listeners,
thank you.
Remember, people who take responsibility for their lives create the reality they desire. Ciao.
You've been watching Power Talk with Jean Adrienne here on Neuro Television.